Hey everyone, welcome to Strange Stories, where we explore near-death experiences and supernatural stories from people who've had a glimpse of the other side. If you enjoy our content, please consider liking the video and subscribing to our channel. Without further ado, let's get to the story of the day. I was on my way home from work in October 1986. It was late afternoon and it was getting dark. I was riding my bike down a long descending route. The road twisted to the right, and when I looked up, I saw a car speeding toward me. The car took the curve in such a wide radius that it was totally on my side of the road. The autumn wind was so strong that I didn't notice the car approaching until it was too late. I didn't have time to swerve, so a collision was unavoidable. The first thing that struck me was how light everything was. I felt completely weightless. I was floating in a warm, gentle sea of light made up of glittering and vibrating colored crystals. I felt light and high, but yet perfectly serene and balanced. I was in a condition of being that I'd never known before. It was an amazing and uplifting experience. There was only light when I looked up and around me. There was nothing to hold my attention. I looked for landmarks to help me figure out where I was and which directions were up and down. I peered down to see my body, which was fully transparent and shined like a bright light tube. Despite being in a light that was far stronger than the sun, I saw that I emitted a light that was far stronger than the light I was in. How could that be? I later discovered that this was because I reflected all of the light surrounding me, which beamed toward my transparent, non-physical body. I was perplexed by the fact that, despite its brightness, the light was not blinding. This crystal light was gentle, gorgeous, and shimmered delicately in the most exquisite rainbow colors. I looked down at my feet to focus on what was up and down. The floating wave motion then stopped, and I realized I was standing on a light platform surrounded by a glittering mass of light made up entirely of high and warm vibrations. I began to hear voices and sounds as I peered around in the brightness before me. I was intrigued and wondered where I was. I was carried down through the light by the power of thinking and will, and I came to a standstill approximately 100 feet above the scene of the accident. There have been some time since the accident, and there were many people gathered around a young man who was laying on the road. When I looked at him more attentively, he seemed familiar in some manner. Those who surround the young man attempted to resuscitate him. I could feel their shock and despair. I heard someone yell, "He's dead! He's dead! We have no other options!" It hurt inside of me to gaze down at him. When I confronted my own emotions, it felt as if my focus slid from my head to my heart, then out into and through my entire body. Then it erupted all around me. It was as if someone had passed an electric current through me, connecting me to a totally new and much higher energy system. This hit home for me. For the first time, I was inundated with immeasurable power, and for the first time, I felt totally myself. I became aware that I am a part of the divine soul which dwells in multiple dimensions at the same time. At that moment, I saw thousands of beams of light radiating out from me in all the most beautiful colors of the rainbow. I felt like I was one with everything. I could see and experience everything that happened at the accident scene through these two light beams, and I knew everything in an instant. I could move through solid substance as easily as I could through air or fog. I could walk through the automobiles, trees, and other debris at the accident scene without stopping to think. It seemed obvious that one could do so. This is due to the fact that all matter is simply the slowing down of energy, which is made up of vibrating and moving particles. Even the toughest substance is entirely permeable and in theory can allow energy from all directions. This is due to the fact that there is no perfectly tight and solid energy mass. In the non-physical plane I was in, I could see the injured young guy from all sides at the same time. I could see clearly into and through his physical body, revealing and informing me of how energy surged through his organs, glands, and meridians. I could see and sense his bodily and mental imbalances, as well as his ailments. I could also recall how, why, and when these events occurred. I saw the people who assisted the young man emanated a colored light shimmer in warm and beautiful bright pastel colors surrounding them. If one can only tune in, the energy of kindness is utterly lovely and fantastic to listen to. It is known as the most beautiful symphony. Those who had been shocked at the accident site had darkened with concentrated energies and hues, casting shadows around them. As they were surrounded by low vibrations and dissonance, they felt chilly, terrified, and disconnected from their physical selves. When I became aware of the various people emitting energy and colors, I wondered if this radiation had anything to do with how we feel and experience ourselves. When I focused more intently on the young man lying on the ground, I observed that despite his soul having departed his body, he still had a powerful energy radiation. There was a spark as my radiating energies met those coming from him, and I could directly know his thoughts, feelings, and previous life experiences. Then, to my surprise, I realized I was the one lying there. I was experiencing everything from the beginning at the time. I was suddenly back on my bike on my way home from work. I noticed the automobile approaching at fast speed. I saw and heard the crash, and I felt myself flying high in the air and being taken up and out of my physical body. I saw how I entered another plane of life. From there, I witnessed as my physical body, from which I had been separated, dropped on the ground a little further away. I had a very crucial realization. We have two bodies. I realized that I'm not my physical body, but rather an energy body. My true self, the soul, lives and briefly inhabits my physical body. We exist on earth briefly in and through the physical body, yet we are not the body. I understood that I had missed the meaning of my existence by focusing solely on the body and ignoring the soul. I felt indescribably free and burden-free after realizing the physical body. Everything I've experienced and gone through in my life is preserved in my physical body, I realized. All of my worries, fears, errors, and suffering went. I felt divine, uplifted, and liberated. After a little while, I felt a great draw to return to the light platform from which I had come. I simply relaxed and was pulled back up and into the light. I noticed how the light began to emanate warm vibrations toward me, and I realized I wasn't alone. When I looked up, I saw 5 shapes that slowly emerged before me as transparent light beings as the vibrations grew stronger. They seemed to have appeared from another realm. A pristine and clear crystal light encircled the light beings. I felt a strong connection to them. Meeting them was like seeing old, wonderful friends for the first time. It was like if I had taken a long vacation. Our light merged, and we felt as if we had become one. We were surrounded by hues that pulsated and sparkled like fireworks. My energy was converted upwards, and I entered greater light vibrations. I felt indescribably terrific, like if I were actually high. The light creatures introduced themselves and stated that they are my guides, those who show me the path and assist me in my daily activities. We spoke without words through radiation in beautiful, clear, and pulsating color combinations. Communication was lightning fast and entered the consciousness in its purest form. In milliseconds, the energies between us flared up and pulsated. We simply existed and reveled in the high vibrations of shared affection. It was an indescribable sensation and experience. After a while, one of the light creatures remarked to me, "Now you're going to continue because you are to experience what has already been decided." They started focusing energy on me as though they were preparing me for the journey I was about to embark on in new and higher realms. I began to sense muffled, low-frequency vibrations. I could feel myself gradually sinking till I was half lying in a nice and peaceful position. The vibrations intensified until I was engulfed by a low-frequency blackness. My pals had vanished once more. I was perfectly relaxed and eager to see what would happen next. It seemed as if an unfathomable force drew me into the darkness. In higher dimensions, I traveled through a tunnel at several times the speed of light. I can't tell you how long it took. They were surrounded by strong vibrations that reflected and radiated from them. Like lovely suns, they radiated light and wonderful energy into the young man. I could hear the exquisite vibrational tones, which can be equated to wonderful music. It was breathtaking to see them and be a part of this. I just relaxed and let myself be brought where I wanted to go. I immediately had a strong emotion and became aware that there was no such thing as death. Death is simply a passage into other, higher planes of life. I was taken to a bright light source. It seemed as if I had been transported through space and into the universe. The higher and stronger the vibrations were as I got closer to the light. When I focused on the light source, I had the impression that the energies were moving clockwise in a spiral toward the light. The closer I got to the light, the stronger the light beams became in front of me, filling the entire sky like a giant fan. The radiant light was composed of high vibrations in the most lovely and warm pastel colors. An infinite crystal light enveloped and engulfed everything. This heaven inspired my artwork, Eternal Light, which may be found at Stala Church on Orust Island, off the coast of Sweden. In this artwork, I endeavor to portray as many of the brilliant colors present within and around the sky and heaven's powerful and pure crystal light as possible. Because the pure white crystal light was so indescribably light, it was difficult for me to reproduce in the artwork. All of this light is radiated light, who welcomed me with a huge smile and open arms. It was like a nice reunion with an old friend. I slowed down and came to a stop a few meters away from him. It was like returning home. We stood on a high hilltop, surrounded by magnificent splendor. A river flowed through a valley to the left. I noticed a brilliant and vivid light further down in the valley that words cannot explain. I pondered if this light could have come from the well-known Crystal City. The beauty of the landscape was beyond human comprehension. The light being empowered me, and I felt as though everything in this light universe was one. Everything is interconnected and held together. I had euphoric feelings of liberation, love, and unbelievable bliss when I stood in front of him and met his radiation. I was greeted by the light creature, and we communicated telepathically. "Where is the flow of love between you who live on Earth?" he inquired. "What happened to spontaneity, happiness, laughing, and joy? You're completely oblivious that you're in the wrong way. You are mainly concerned with the physically bound darkness, and you live with conflicts and separations from yourself and others. Do you believe you have time for this in your brief existence on Earth?" To help me understand, he gave me visuals of what it meant for us to live and operate together from the start. The notion was that we should live in harmony with mutual understanding and balance. Life on Earth should pulsate and vibrate in the brightest hues of unconditional and undivided love. I was given the opportunity to view life on Earth from a non-physical standpoint. The world I saw had the same shape as normal, but it was completely non-material, and made up entirely of transparent energy. I was allowed to observe how all energy bodies from people, animals, and plants, as well as energies from solid matter, Mother Earth, and the universe, were linked together by light beams. We are all surrounded by these pulsing, radiating energy. I still have the ability to observe things from a non-physical standpoint. The light being taught me how life was intended to function from the beginning here on Earth. When I sensed these energies, it felt like I was floating in the ultimate euphoria of warm, healing, and unifying feelings. I learned that we must learn to love ourselves and others, to give and receive such love, to forgive ourselves and others, and to understand and agree with one another. All of the information and ideas I pass on to you are from the other side. Before I go, I'd like to state unequivocally that I will not be seen as some kind of spiritual savior. I'm just a regular, everyday human that wants to help and share what I've learned and experienced on the other side with other people. Deep down, I hope it will enrich your life in the same manner that it has benefited mine and many others. Many people have questioned me how I was able to experience everything I experienced in 8 minutes on the other side. When I was declared dead, I momentarily released the body for an experience and an astral travel and timelessness. On Earth, time is measured in a linear time system. We measure time from one point in time to another and receive a specific time interval as a result. This is what we call time. On the other hand, time is not measured in the same way the humans do. One lives in and via various vibrational states. I did not assess knowledge and experience in the same way that I do here. I entered and experienced several vibratory sensations, which combined to give me an instantaneous intuition about all that is and is not. We all have access to everything in this pure heavenly state. Because one does not measure time, but just reaches different high vibrational levels, it is impossible to measure the number of seconds or minutes in order to get the information that we have on Earth. I'll need several months, if not years, to fully comprehend. For me, the most essential and interesting thing is not to report on how long I was on the other side. The most essential thing is that I made a new contact, which I now keep with me at all times.